Okay, guys, now that we know the fundamentals or basic components of fire detection and alarm system, I think we are now ready for modules for the design of fire detection and alarm system. So we will now proceed with the designing of fire detection and alarm system. But before that, I want to discuss first um, regarding about the NFPA. What is NFPA? NFPA, it is a global organization established since 1896, devoted to eliminate death, injury, property, and economic loss due to fire, electrical, and related hazards. So, guys, though we have a lot of standards in different states like in America or in other place in UK or here in Philippines, we're also using NFPA. So, in my tutorial, I will be discussing standards only or codes using NFPA. And I think there will no problem. There will be no problem because even in Middle East, they're using NFPA. So I'm sorry guys if I will be discussing only NFPA. But in the future, if you want me to discuss about like other standards like British, then maybe we can discuss these standards also. But in this tutorial, we will be discussing only NFPA. So there are organizations actually guys who are making the standards for fire. So in designing of fire detection and alarm system, these are the standards that we need to take care, guys. So we have mainly one is NFPA 72, which is standards for National Fire Alarm and Signaling Code. And the other one is NFPA 70, which is the National Electrical Code. NFPA 98, standards for installation of air conditioning and ventilating system. NFPA 170, standards for fire safety and symbols. And the last one is NFPA 101, life safety code. So guys, before you start the design with the fire detection and alarm system, you should be familiar with these 5 standards from NFPA. So we will not just read NFPA 72 and we will be okay. We should know these 5 at least standards from NFPA. There's even actually some other standards that we need, but these are the standards that we need in general. In NFPA, guys, there is a standard table of contents. Mainly in the first chapter, it is standard to have a scope. So even if in 72 or NFPA 90A or NFPA 70, they all have same pattern when it comes to the template of the standard. So in the first chapter, you will always find scope, which is the first chapter of the standard. So that's why it is always located in the first chapter of every NFP standards to remind the readers of its applicability before you use. So guys, before you read the particular standards, you have to first understand the scope, no, and purpose, because why you will waste your time in reading these standards if it's not applicable to what you need in the project. So before you use an ANPA standard, you have to read first the scope. And the second one is you will have the reference or the list of related standards. So these are important also. Usually it's located in the second chapter of NFPA standard. So for the readers, no, to see what are other related documents that you have to read. That's why when you read, let's say NFPA 72, you will also find in the second chapter from the reference that you also have to refer yourself in other NFPA documents like NFPA 70, where you can find the standards for installation of wirings, and 90A, requirements for installation of duct detector. So there's a lot of related documents. So that's why this chapter of particular standards shall also be read by the end user. And the third one is the definitions. No, in every chapter of NFPA, the third chapter is always the definition. These are also important, guys. But I just listed three uh, definitions here, which is the main definitions that we have to take care. AHJ, shall, should. These three. When we say AHJ, it's an organization, office, or individual responsible for enforcing the requirements of a code or standard. So let's say in our country, in Philippines, the fire marshal or fire department, they're the one who's giving us the codes in every building construction. They're the one who's giving the requirements for fire. And at the same time, in let's say in Qatar, they're calling HJ as civil defense. So there are samples of HJ who's implementing the requirements for fire in every building construction. And the other definition that I want you to take care, guys, is shall and should. What is the difference between these two? When we say shall, it's mandatory, guys. So whenever you see shall in a word shall in standards, it's mandatory. It shall be provided by the designer. And it should, it's just a recommendation. So you're not enforced to um, do particular requirements if it's just a should or a recommendation. So before we start with the standards for the fire detection and alarm system, guys, um, first we need to know which code are we going to use. So it depends on your ASJ, civil defense or fire marshal. Let's say for example, in the Middle East, they have particular local codes, so you have to follow that local codes. Or if they tell you to follow NFPA 101, follow 101. NFPA 101 is a life safety code. So there are some state in I think in US that they're implementing NFPA 101 as a code for life safety code for building construction. So it depends on the issue, guys. What is their requirement? They maybe have their own local codes, or they're just enforcing you to use some other reference code like IBC or IFC or NFPA 101. In my case, guys, I will be just discussing NFPA 101 code, which will be our reference code for this tutorial. What is the difference between code and standards? A code is a mandatory requirement, guys, which tells the designer whether a fire detection alarm system is required in a building or not. So, guys, before you start designing a building, you have to know first if fire detection and alarm system is required in a building. Why you will design a building with fire detection and alarm system if it's not required? Otherwise, the client or the owner of the building will tell you why you're proposing this if it's not even required in a building. So be careful of this, guys. Before you discuss something about as a designer, before you discuss about the requirements for fire detection and alarm system, you have to know first the code requirement if it's really required. So I advise you to be familiar with. In my side, I will discuss NFPA 101, so you have to be familiarized with NFPA 101 first. So let's start now, guys. In NFPA 101, it is a life safety code. So like what I said earlier, when you're using a standard or a code in NFPA, you have to read first the scope. So what is the scope of NFPA 101? This code addresses the construction, protection, and occupancy features necessary to minimize the danger to life from effects of fire, smoke, heat, and toxic gases created during fire. So, in NPA 101, guys, I want you to be very familiar with the occupancy classification. As a designer, guys, this is the very basic chapter in NFPA 1 that you have to know before you can design. You have to be familiar with first the occupancy classification. There's a lot of occupancy classification like what I will show here. These are actually I forgot to tell you guys my reference edition of NFPA 101 is 2015, guys. But now I think there's latest 2019. So in my tutorial, it's 2000. I used 2015 as my reference. So there may be some adjustment in the clause sometimes in different edition. So that's why I mentioned the edition here. So what are the type of occupancy? We have assembly, let's say malls, theaters. We're expecting that particular building is open for public. That is assembly, or a big restaurant. That will be assembly. Educational, like schools, for high schools, college, universities, children's, and daycare, healthcare, ambulatory healthcare, detention and correctional, residential, residential board and care, mercantile, business, industrial, storage, multiple occupancy. Guys, we will discuss everything in the other slide, so I don't need to discuss this now in the slides. But these are the occupancy classification that we have to be familiar with. So what I did, guys, so for you to easily understand or have an idea of what is the requirement of NFPA 101 for each type of occupancy, I just made you a summary. So in this summary, guys, table that I use, that I did, you can easily verify what requirements for fire alarm you have per occupancy. So you don't need to search. Anywhere. Anywhere in the page of 101. I gave also the reference here, so you can also verify. So it's just a summary, guys. It's a summary of the requirements of NFPA 1.1 for each occupancy. Okay, let's have a look. In this table, we have a reference section where you can find this requirement from the NFPA. So we have this, we have the reference, we have the occupancy, what type of occupancy, and if automatic detection, like I said earlier, these are the smoke detector, heat, any initiating devices which is automatic, it's here. If it's required or no, it's mentioned here. If it's only for sprinkler, I also mentioned here just water switch, water flow switch. If it's for both, so it's both initiating and water flow switch. I'm mentioning also here both. If there's a requirement for CO detection, there is also a separate column for that. Manual initiation, if there's a requirement for manual push station. Notification and voice, because sometimes there's a requirement for voice. But in this tutorial, guys, I will not discuss about voice evacuation. It will be provided in a different tutorial. So we have two types of notification here. Notification one is notification, whereas we have either bell or horn strobe, something like that. And voice evacuation, speaker strobe. Type of alarm, it's the type of alarm notification. I will discuss it in the other slides. Voice announcement, this is not applicable in our tutorial, but I'll just give you an idea, because in voice evacuation, either it can be recorded, played automatically, recorded voice, or it can be manual live voice, where as trainer, a trained personnel or a firefighter can do live voice announcement for people to evacuate. evacuate the building. And we have the separate also column for constantly attended receiving station. This is like fire command center. So if this is required in the building, it's here. And repeater. So these are the requirements that you will see in each occupancy if they are required. So let's start now, guys. In assembly occupancy with more than 300 occupants or at theaters with more than one audience viewing room, what are the requirements for fire detection alarm system? What you will see here, automatic detection, yes, it is required, but only for monitoring of water flow switch. What it means, guys? It means, guys, not in every building, guys, we need both fire detection and sprinkler. Sometimes, like in this occupancy, sprinkler, providing sprinkler in the building is enough. Because even if you have a sprinkler in a building, it can give you also the advantage of giving you the monitoring of fire. Because once the fire is triggered, and if it's connected to the building fire alarm system, it can also give you alarm notification. So that's why in assembly occupancy, in this requirement, what you will see is, yes, it's required automatic detection, but for monitoring of water flow switch only. So there's no requirement for provision of other initiating devices anymore. Because having a sprinkler in the building is also at the same time giving you the detection requirement. Okay? For CO detection, it's not required. Manual initiation, yes. So we need to provide also manual pull station in the building. So notification, it's blank. Why? Because in assembly, it is required to have voice evacuation rather than just a normal audible and visual notification. Why? Because having complete information for people to evacuate is critical, no? Because we're expecting to have more occupants in assembly, and at the same time, I mean, the crowd will be more. So giving them the right information during fire will make us an advantage in terms of evacuation and safer. Type of alarm, positive sequence permitted. What is a positive alarm sequence? Positive alarm sequence is there will be a delay of 15 seconds before an alarm notification will be given to the building. Let's say if there's a fire started from the busted sprinkler, there's a delay of 15 seconds for the operator to check the control panel where this fire is originated. Otherwise, if it's not acknowledged within 15 seconds, then a general alarm will be um, triggered in the whole building. But once the fire is acknowledged at the control panel within 15 seconds, there will be a time delay of 180 seconds additional for a trained personnel to verify this fire. So if it's not um, cleared within 180 seconds, then it will activate again a general alarm. So that is positive sequence, guys. So now we have a requirement for voice announcement in assembly 2, assembly occupancy. So this voice announcement can be either an automatic uh, recorded message or a live voice. And the other one is in assembly, there is a requirement for constantly attended receiving station. It means in every assembly occupancy with more than 300 occupants, we have to have a fire command center or a room, fire command center or a room where this trained personnel is there 24 hours. So it's like a manned location, no? So if in case of alarm, these boys can be these boys will be triggered manually by the operator and not automatically. So the next one is in an assembly occupancy. Uh, th- there is also some like areas which is what we call hazardous areas. No, some hazardous areas like electrical rooms, so mechanical rooms. So that areas are required to have a fire alarm, or if not, if it's also sprinklered, because sometimes there are designers like um, avoiding to use the sprinkler inside the electrical room, even if it's permitted. So if it's not sprinkler, then you have to have a fire detector. If it's not, if it's sprinklered, then you don't need any fire detection anymore. So same with the first row in assembly, you may need also to have manual pull station, and at the same time voice evacuation requirement like speakers. So anyone who entered that room, particular room, there will be also announcement, no, to evacuate the building. It's the same. Oh, the next occupancy that we're going to discuss is the educational occupancy with more than 100 occupants. So this is the school, right? School guys. So just check this reference, guys, if you need to know more about these particular requirements. You can also verify that one from this reference. That's why I provided here. So what we need in an educational occupancy, we need also automatic detection. Same with assembly. If it's already sprinklered, then we have to monitor that only. That supervision of sprinkler. So yes, we need automatic detection through sprinkler. And at the same time, we need also CO detection. So here I have a note. By the way, guys, I have a note here. You will see here in some word, there is a note. Let's say one. You will see here one. So be sure that you read these notes and we will discuss it also later, those notes. So I provided, when there is important notes, I provided here, guys. So one, and here in educational occupancy, there is a notes here, two, or three, four. So we will discuss this later on. What are those notes? So yes, CO detection is required. Manual pull station, yes, required. Voice evacuation, yes, it's required. Not just audible and visual. Same with assembly. So what we need here is a speaker, voice evacuation. I forgot, guys, in this tutorial, we will just discuss about fire detection and alarm system. Voice evacuation will be discussed in other tutorial. So right now, at the moment, I made only videos or tutorials for fire detection and alarm system. So what's the type of alarm? It can be also positive sequence, same what we discussed in assembly. So we will like have 15 seconds delay first when the fire alarm is activated. That will be the delay for trained personnel to check and verify or acknowledge from the panel. If it's not acknowledged, then general alarm will be activated. If it's acknowledged, then there's another additional delay of 108 seconds for the trained personnel to verify or firefighters to verify at the site. If there is really a fire in the area which is displayed from the control panel. Voice announcement will be recorded or live voice, but constantly attended visitations is not required. So once there's a fire or the delay is uh, finished, it will automatically play the recorded and live voice message. Unlike in assembly, the trained personnel, since there will be a trained personnel with 24 hours in a room which where it's constantly attended, they're the one who's going to activate the alarm. Here, it will be automatically played. So the next occupancy is daycare. What is the requirements for daycare? Okay, we need also detection, manual detection, yes. We don't need voice evacuation, only yes, only audible and visual notification. It means horn or either horn strobe. I mean horn strobe. When we say audible and visual, both audible and visual is required. So here in daycare, it's audible and visual notification. Type of alarm, same, positive sequence permitted. Healthcare, okay. This is just like a small clinic, guys, for checkup of people, physical checkup. Okay, what is the requirement? Automatic detection, yes, it's required. CO, no. Manual pull station, yes. Horn, audible and visual, horn strobe, yes. Voice evacuation, not required. Type of alarm, yes. Positive sequence is also permitted. Ambulatory healthcare, okay. Also, yes, for automatic detection. When we say yes for both, it means both sprinkler and smoke detection is required. So in healthcare, it's both. I forgot. In daycare also, it's both sprinkler and uh, fire detector is required. In healthcare, yes. When I say yes, it's only for fire detection. So there's no requirement for monitoring or sprinkler. It means in ambulatory healthcare, it may be exempted from the requirement of sprinkler. That's why in NFPA, they didn't mention about requirements for supervision of sprinkler. So only for fire detection. Manual detection, yes, it's required. Notification, yes. Audible and visual, no requirements for voice. And type of alarm, it's positive sequence, yes, it's permitted. Detention and correctional prison, no? So detection, yes, both sprinkler and automatic fire detection is required. Initiation, manual, yes. So there are some notes there. So like what I said, we will check it later on. And notification, no need for voice, only audible and visual is enough. Means horn strobe only is enough. Type of alarm, positive sequence permitted. And there is also requirements for constantly attended receiving station. It means there will, of course, this prison, no, or correctional. So there will be like a control room there, which is constantly attended by trained personnel. The next occupancy is residential. Under residential, there's a lot of types of residential. One is one and two family dwellings. So, so it's like two family room or two family apartment attached to each other, or lodging and rooming houses, hotels and dormitories, apartment buildings with more than 4 stories and 11 dwelling units. So these are the category. So under one and two family dwellings, guys, automatic detection, yes, is required. Uh, again, guys, once you didn't see both, it means only for fire detection. So fire detection, yes, is required. CO, yes, is required. Audible and visual notification, yes, is required. The rest is no. Lodging and roaming house, manual, yes, required. For automatic detection, both sprinkler and fire detection is required. And at the same time, you also have requirements for CO. So you will notice, guys, in residential, there is a common requirements. CO always is there because sometimes most of the time there's like a touch garage in this type of occupancy where there's a car. parking garage, no? There will be a potential for source of CO, and for burning, let's say in house, there's like for burning fuel appliances, you need to have a CO detection there. Otherwise, it's dangerous for people that lives there for the presence of CO. So CO is mandatory for this type of occupancy, aside from fire alarm. So, okay, all of them requires only horn and strobe. No requirements for voice evacuation. And the same time for type of alarm, positive sequence is permitted again. Okay, but in hotels and dormitories and apartments more than 4 stories, there is additional requirement now here where it says repeater is required. So you have to have a repeater somewhere in the building. Most of the time, this repeater can be found in the main entrance of the building. And the fire alarm control panels are located just somewhere in the building, like in electrical rooms, or if there are security offices, it can be located there also. But at the same time, there should be also a repeater. This repeater will be located in the main entrance most of the time. Then, for the eighth type of occupancy is the residential board and care. What is the requirement? At both automatic and sprinkler, okay, supervision. Manual push station, yes, is required. Audible and visual is required. And voice evacuation is required. There's a error in here, guys. This notification should be not here. Should only voice. There should be only one. If it's voice evacuation, should be voice. Okay? So, type of alarm, what you will notice here, positive sequence permitted. Here, it's not. So, it's not permitted to have positive. It means once there's a fire initiated from a device, it will automatically generate alarm within the building without any delays, playing the recorded message either or a live voice from the trained person or firefighter. Repeater is also required. Mercantile. So this is like the groceries, supermarket inside the malls. They're mercantile or pharmacies. No? So detections, yes, it's required. Both sprinkler and fire detectors. Pull station, yes, required. Notification, yes. Audible and visual. There's no requirement for voice evacuation. And type of alarm, positive sequence are permitted. Okay, and the rest is none. For malls, yes, no requirements for fire detection, only water flow switch, synapse, supervision. Pull station, it can be excluded once you have sprinkler in malls. There's no requirement. Notification, audible and visual. This one, it's another error, guys. So it should be voice evacuation only. There shouldn't, okay. So voice evacuation is required. Voice announcement, either recorded or live voice. And this time again, guys, it's positive sequence is not permitted. Okay, the next one is business occupancy with 3 or more stories or 50 or more occupants below and above level of discharge or 300 or more occupants. So these are the offices of buildings. So yes, detection is required. Sprinkler not required. Manual initiation, push station, yes. Audible and visual is required. Positive alarm sequence is permitted, okay? Industrial detection is required. Again, sprinkler is not mandatory. Manual push station, yes. Notification, audible and visual, yes. Positive sequence permitted, yes. And constantly attended receiving station, yes, is required. Storage, same with industrial, yes. Fire detection is required. Supervision of a sprinkler, not mandatory. Manual pull station, yes. Positive sequence permitted, yes, yes. Constantly attended receiving station. Now we will go to the notes. What is one? What is one? The first note. Here, you will see the note 1 from occupancy, assembly occupancy, under constantly attended receiving station. So what is the note for the first one? Where the authority having jurisdiction, which is the ASJ, determines that a constantly attended receiving station is impractical, both of the following shall be provided. So if it's determined by ASJ that, okay, this is not practical to have a fire command center or constantly attended receiving station within the building, then rather than a trained personnel to activate manually the live voice or recorded message, now it's permitted now to be played automatically. Plus, because it's both, the system shall be monitored by a supervising station in accordance with NFPA 72. So this one, let's say in the Middle East, most of the buildings are monitored by from the civil defense. So they are required to be monitored by the civil defense. Plus, the bush evacuation can be played now automatically. Unlike before, in the first slides, first notes, first requirement, it can be activated only from the constant integration attended receiving station manually. Now it's permitted if the HJ says that okay, constantly attended receiving stations is not possible in this building. Another note is for 2. This one. Educational with more than 100 occupant. What is the note? What this note 2 says? The requirement of 14.3 for point 1.1 shall not apply to buildings meeting all the following criteria. So, buildings having an area not exceeding 93 square meter, building containing a single classroom, all of the following guys buildings located not less than 91.1 meters from another building. So, guys, when you have a building which is less than an area which is less than 93 square meter and only a single classroom and which is less than 9.1 from the other building, then this requirement for educational is not mandatory anymore. Okay? So that is the one. For manual station, there is a note here, 3. Let's see. For educational, what is the notes for manual pull station? For manual fire alarm boxes shall be permitted, so it's permitted to be eliminated. When it is permitted to when it's permitted to omit fire alarm manual fire alarm pull station in educational occupancy, you should fully comply with the following conditions. One is interior corridors are protected by smoke detectors. Auditoriums, cafeterias, gymnasiums are protected by heat detection devices or other detection devices. No, sometimes gymnasiums or auditoriums they're high ceiling. No, sometimes they're using beam detector in this place. Shops and laboratories involving dust and vapors are protected by heat detection devices again or other detection. So sometimes they're using gas detection in this or flame detection in these rooms. Provision is made at a central point to manually activate the evacuation signal or to evacuate any affected areas. So that is the conditions that we need to have before we can eliminate the pull station automatically. Or the building is protected by throughout by a sprinkler or provision is made at central point to manually activate the evacuation signal. So these two. Either you have the poor conditions or you have these two. Then we can only eliminate pull station. So what is the port note? This is about CO detection in educational. So what is the notes there? Carbon monoxide alarms or carbon monoxide detectors in accordance with section 9.12. Just take a look at this clause, guys, in NFPA Standards, NFPA 101, shall be provided in unit occupancies in the location specified as follows. So these are the areas where you need to provide CO. So we all know that in educational occupancy, we need to have CO detection, but which area in educational where you need CO? So these are your guidelines. You need to have a CO in ceiling of rooms containing permanently installed fuel burning appliances. Say in laboratories, if we have this for fuel burning appliances, then we have to have a CO detector at the ceiling. Centrally located within occupiable spaces served by the first supply A register from a permanently installed fuel burning HVAC. If you have a fuel burning HVAC, then you have to have uh, uh, CO detection at the first supply A register. And the third one is centrally located within occupiable space adjacent to or communicating attached garage. If you have an attached garage within the education, within the building, schools, then you need to have uh, CO detection within occupiable space attached to that one, which is adjacent to that garage. Okay? And the following shall not be required. CO are not required in the following locations. So where is it? Garage or communicating attached garage that are open. When you have an open parking structures, no? When this garage is open, it's not enclosed, then you don't need to provide a CO detection. And if garage is mechanically ventilated also, then it's not mandatory to have CO detection anymore in that within that occupiable space. Okay? Now we will go on the PIP note. So what this PIP note says about? PIP note is for daycare. It's for the requirement of automatic detection. So here it says both sprinkler and fire detection. So what is the note there in 5? A smoke detection system in accordance with section 9.6. Again, guys, check this in NPA. Shall be installed in the daycare occupancies other than those housed in a room having at least one door opening directly to outside at grade plane on a rear access balcony. Such as comply with both of the following. Okay, so these are the requirement, no, where you need to install smoke detection because like what it says in my summary, it says both fire detection and sprinkler, but where you will provide fire detection. So these are the location. In each story, in front of the doors to the surveys. So in every surveys, you need to have detectors before that service door. No, and in the corridors also, you need to have all floors. And in lounges, recreation areas, sleeping rooms, you have to have a smoke detector there. So these are the guidelines, guys. Let's go to now to 6 notes. So for 6, it's in under healthcare, under manual initiation again. So let's see what's the note there in manual pull station for healthcare. So 6, it says that manual fire alarm boxes in patient sleeping areas shall not be required at exits if located at all nurses control stations or other continuously attended staff location, provided that both of the following means both. So, manual full station in what is that occupancy? Uh, in healthcare, it's not required anymore when you have a nurse control stations. Okay, if you have a manual fire alarm pull station installed in all nurses control stations. And at the same time, both of the following criteria are met. No? Such manual fire alarm boxes are visible. No? Make sure that this fire alarm pull station installed at all nurses control stations are visible. And the travel distance, which is 61 meters, is maintained. It means the travel distance to the pull station is not more than 61 meters, guys. If nurse are going to activate the pull station, which is at the nurse control station, it should not exceed 61 meters as a travel distance. Okay? Okay, let's go now on the seventh note. Seventh note can be found under detection and correctional. So there's a note also for manual initiation. Okay, let's see. Manual fire alarm boxes shall be permitted to be locked provided that the staff is present within the area when it is occupied and staff has keys readily available to unlock the boxes. Okay, guys. So in prison or in correctional, because we all know that people there are some people there are cannot be trusted because it's it's a jail, it's a prison. So there's additional security measures. That's why fire alarm boxes are locked, permitted to be locked. No, so they cannot just activate this pull station accidentally. I mean, not accidentally or or intentionally, but provided that the security guards there or staffs are always having the key all the times that the prison is occupied. Okay, so they can, in terms of real fire, they can just go there and unlock the prison. I mean, unlock the pull station and activate it manually. So this is just a matter of security control. Manual fire alarm boxes shall be permitted to be located in staff location. Okay, you can also just provide fire alarm boxes as the staff location, provided the staff location is attended. No, when we provide fire alarm boxes only or may pull station only in the staff location, it should be attended once the building is occupied, and the staff attendant has direct supervision of the sleeping area. Okay, so those are the conditions. For the 8 notes, for automatic detection and supervision of sprinkler, they are both required in detection and correctional. There's also a note. Okay, let's see what's that. Okay, in detection, an approved automatic smoke detection system shall be in accordance with 6196. Check that, guys. And this following clause, which is here. So this is where we're going to install our detector inside the correctional and detention. Smoke detector shall not be required in sleeping rooms. So if you have, let's say, jail room or sleeping rooms with only 4 or fewer occupants, then smoke detector is not required there anymore. Other arrangement and positioning of smoke detector shall be permitted to prevent damage or tampering or for other purposes. Let's say, for example, guys, in a prison, in a jail, in a room in a jail, if you will just expose this detector in the room, the prisoners may intentionally, easily, tamper this detector. So there's a special requirement in installing the detectors in prison. You may install this not easily visible. It might be installed from the diffuser, no, from the HVAC, just behind this. So it cannot be tampered by prisoner. You will see here other arrangement as specified in 23.3.4.4.2 shall be capable of detecting of any fire, and placement of detector shall be such that the speed of detection is equivalent to that provided by the spacing and arrangement required by installation. No? When you locate this detector with special arrangement, like what I said, can be installed behind the grills. Like what I said, you will see here, detectors shall be permitted to be located exhaust ducts from cells behind the grills. So it cannot be tampered easily by prisoners. But make sure that the performance will not change. Same. I mean, the detection, it will work same as if you install this detector in the room. So there will be no there should be no effect in the performance of the detection if you install it behind the grill. That is the note only. Okay. Smoke detector shall be required in use in open dormitories where staff is present within the dormitory whenever the door is closed. Okay. So let's go on note 9 under 1 and 2 family dwellings. What is the note for CO? CO again, it should be provided in the following areas in the two more than two family dwelling one and two family dwelling units. Dwelling units with communicating attached garage. No, if you have a house with attached garage, okay, you need to have CO there. Or dwelling units containing fuel burning appliances or fuel burning fireplaces. No, in cold areas where they have fuel burning fireplaces, okay, they need also CO. Carbon monoxide alarms or carbon monoxide detectors have been installed in the following location where, so this is the location where you will install it outside each separate dwelling unit. Every sleeping area, you need to have CO outside, okay? And every occupiable level of dwelling unit, including basement, no? So you need to have, including, excluding attics only. CO are not required in the following locations. In garage, or where again when your garage is attached garage is open in structures, it's not enclosed, then you don't need to provide CO there. And if the attached garage are mechanically ventilated, so we don't need any more CO there. Okay, we'll go now on note 10. What is note 10 for automatic detection in one and two family dwellings? So for automatic detections, yes, fire detector is required. We'll see. Okay, smoke alarm can be provided instead. So rather than providing a complete fire alarm control panel with the CO detection or a fire detector, we can install a smoke alarm. So it means the battery operated smoke detector standalone can be used instead. That will meet both the requirements for detection and notification. Okay. And now for note 11 for lodging and roaming houses. Automatic detection, both for sprinkler and for detection, is required. What is the note for note 11? What is this there for lodging and roaming houses? Smoke alarm can be provided again. It's the same. So we can either use a complete fire detection alarm system having a control panel or a fire detector and audible and visual. Or you can also use a smoke alarm in this place. But I mean, what's mentioned here is in 11 is for sleeping areas. But if you will have a fire detection and alarm system, rather than having a smoke alarm, particular only in sleeping room, then you may also consider providing them, providing those sleeping rooms with the smoke detector and at the same time with sounder. So you only have one system. So in this part, in lodging and roaming houses, I will recommend to use only one system, which is a complete fire detection alarm system, rather installing another system like smoke alarm in sleeping room. We will just use one. Just install smoke detector and audible also in sleeping room. So the next one is hotel and dormitories. We have note 13 there in under automatic detection. Both we need supervision of sprinkler and fire detector. So what is the note there in hotels and dormitories in note 13? It says there, okay, sorry guys. I think we skipped note 12. There's also a note 12 in lodging and roaming houses for CO. Let's just see that requirement first again. Note 12, it just says same with other occupancy where you will apply, where you will install CO detectors. It should be installed outside each sleeping area, sleeping room, every occupiable level, no, excluding attics, same with what we have in the rest and the other occupancy. And where it's not required to install CO, same. When you have an attached garage, which is an open parking structure, and it's if it's mechanically ventilated, then it's not required anymore. So let's go to 13 for hotel and dormitories. What is the notes for initiation? The required fire alarm system shall be initiated by each of the following. So it means it can be either be you have it's required to have a fire alarm system either by having initiating devices, either of the following, either manual means or manual push station or a manual push station at central control point, which is continuously supervised by responsible employees, or a required automatic sprinkler system, or a required automatic detection system other than sleeping room smoke detectors. Okay? So that is the note for manual initiation. Okay? And for 14, for CO, it's the same again, guys. But I mean, there's additional. Okay, when you have a guest room with communicating attached garage, then you have to have CO detector there, and the rest outside each sleeping guest room or sleeping area again or sleeping rooms, and every occupiable level of a guest room and guest suite. So you need a CO detector there. And where it is not required, same. When you have guest suites with communicating attached garage that are open parking, then you don't need to have a CO detector. Now we go on the 15 notes. Where is it? Here. Manual initiation under apartment buildings with more than 4 stories and 11 dwelling units. Okay, let's check what is the note for manual pull station for apartment. It says that the initiation of required fire alarm system by manual means shall not be required in buildings of 4 or fewer stories in height containing not more than 16 dwelling units and protected throughout by sprinkler. So these are the exemption, no? Where you can omit manual pull station. When you have sprinkler protected throughout, and your building is 4 or fewer, containing less than 16 dwelling units, or not more than 16, I mean, then we can omit pull station also requirement for this in apartment building. Okay, for note 16, there's a requirement for repeater. Let's see, apartment, under apartment occupancy. What is 16? Okay. Annunciation in annunciation zoning shall not be required in buildings. So when you have an apartment where there is a 2 or fewer stories in height, having not more than 50 dwelling units, don't need repeater anymore. Or a building with 4 or fewer stories in height containing not more than 16 and protected by sprinkler, you don't need repeater also. Okay? So that's why I advise you guys to, when you read this summary that I did, this table, you have to read all these notes that I put here. So you will know exactly the requirements and other exclusion. No? So where we are now? 15, 16. Now we'll go to 16 notes. I mean 17. 17 is for CO. Let's see if there's a changes. CO, then it's the same. So it shall be installed outside dwelling units, each sleeping rooms, no? And every occupiable level, okay, it's the same. And you don't need CO detectors anymore when once you have a dwelling units with communicating attached garage that are open parking structures, okay? So it's the same. There's just an additional when you have a fuel burning appliances inside the building apartment, you need to have a ceiling again. You need to have a CO detector installed at the ceiling, okay? Installed, okay? And if you have an HVAC where it's a fuel burning HVAC, you have to install again a CO by the first supplier air register. And in the attached garage, it should be installed within the occupiable space adjacent to the attached garage. Okay? So this we're going to install the CO under apartment buildings. Okay, now for note 18, under residential board and care, we have notes in voice evacuation. We'll see what is 18. High-rise buildings shall be provided with an approved emergency voice alarm system in accordance with 11.8.8.4. So just check this clause, guys. It's just straightforward requirement, so no need for me to discuss this, I think. And let's go to note 19, manual full station for occupancy with business occupancy with 3 or more stories or 50 more occupants below and above level of discharge or more than 300 occupants. Okay, manual pull station is required, but there's a note in 19. Let's see what's the note. Initiation of required fire alarm shall be by one of the following. So either one of the following is acceptable. Either we provide manual pull station anywhere in the building, okay? That is 9.6.211 if you will check that one. And mostly in the exits, and if you have a travel distance more than 61 to other pull station, then you need to add more. That is for note 1. 2, if you have a probe fire detection system, which is provided all throughout the building, then you don't need to, I mean, okay, okay. The initiation of required fire alarm, okay. Sorry guys. This is for the initiation, no? Initiation, either you provide manual means or you can either you provide smoke detection throughout or you will provide sprinkler all throughout. Okay, this is not exemption for manual means. This is the initiation. the acceptable option for initiation. Either you provide MPS, pull station, or detectors, or sprinkler. So we'll go to that 19 again, just to verify again. 19. That's why here I put both these notes in applicable for automatic and manual, because you either put pull station all throughout the building, or fire detection all throughout, or sprinkler all throughout. So any of these options are acceptable. Okay. Positive alarm sequence permitted again. Voice evacuation not required. Only audible and visual notification. Then for note 20, what's the note? Initiation of required fire alarm again by any. So it means any of these three. Same with what we have previously. Either manual pull station are installed throughout the building, or fire detection throughout the building, or sprinkler. So same note with 10, business. So in industrial also, we can follow the same for initiation. And the last is the storage occupancy. So what is the note for, sorry, there's a note for 21 also. Note 21, constantly attended receiving station. We'll see that one under business, under industrial. Sorry, 21 industrial. So what is the note? The required fire alarm system shall meet one of the following criteria. Shall provide occupant notification in accordance with 9.6, okay. Or it shall sound an audible and visual signal in constantly attended location for the purpose of. So either of these two guys is acceptable. Either the occupant notification um, be provided in all throughout the building, or it will sound only audible and visual at first to if there's a constantly attended location within the building. So it's the trained personnel who is going to raise the alarm in case of fire. Okay? Now, for 20-second notes under storage for automatic and manual, maybe it's the same requirement. Okay, initiation can be by any of the following again, either by manual means or fire detection all throughout, or sprinkler. So it's the same. And for 23 notes, 23rd, under storage again, constantly attended location, maybe it's the same with industrial. It shall provide occupant notification in accordance with 9.6.3, or at first it can sound, it will sound only at constantly attended location. Then it's the trained personnel who's going to initiate the emergency action. Okay. Then 24, there's a note in occupancy in 24, storage 24. Storage occupancy is limited to low hazard contents shall not be required. Okay, when you have a low hazard contents in a storage occupancies, then you don't need to have a fire alarm system anymore. Or if you have an ordinary hazard or high hazard contents not exceeding an aggregate floor area of 9,300 square meter, shall not require to have a fire alarm. So these are the exemption, guys. And if you have a sprinkler system all throughout, then you don't need fire alarm also. Okay? Now that we are familiar with the type of occupancy and requirements of fire detection and alarm system in each occupancy, now we can begin now with the requirements for the installation and design of fire detection and alarm system. In this case, we are now ready to discuss NFPA 72, which is the National Fire Alarm and Signaling Code. Again, we will discuss first the scope, So we know if this is applicable to our requirement. So the NPA 72, this covers the application. So take note of this, guys. Application, installation, location, performance, inspection, testing, and maintenance of fire alarm system, supervising station alarm system, public emergency alarm reporting system, power warning equipment, and emergency communication system and their components. So it's really broad, bro. Really broad, guys. So even for inspection, testing, and maintenance, this code is applicable for us aside from installation and location. Okay? Before we proceed with the design criteria, I want you to be familiar with the fundamentals first, guys, and pathways in fire alarm system. So these are the summary that I did. So it's easy for us to refer which clause we need in NFPA 72. I already did the summary, guys, for fundamentals. So most of the clause, I mean, generally, these are the clause that we need for under fundamentals and pathways in fire alarm. So what are those? First is 10.3.1 fundamentals shall be listed for fire alarm use. So when we have a fire alarm system, make sure that the system or the equipment or devices that we are offering are it should be listed, no, for fire alarm use. It can be found from the data sheets catalogs of fire alarm in every fire alarm manufacturer. So it's standard, no, that it should be listed, either UL listed or UL FM approved. It's there. That is listed for fire alarm use. So the next one is 10.3.2 shall be installed, inspected, tested, and maintained in accordance with manufacturer and this standard. So guys, when you're installing devices for fire alarm, we are not installing it as per this NFPA 72 standard only. Of course, we need to consider also the requirements from the manufacturer. Okay? So the other next important fundamental is 10.3, 10.3.3 of NFPA 72. Just be careful of the edition that I use. Again, it's 2016, guys. So what is the requirement for all equipment? You will see here all equipment. Devices and appliances that receive their power from initiating device circuit or signaling line circuit of a control unit shall be listed for use with the control unit. When that means, guys, whenever there all the devices like initiating devices, smoke detector, beam detector, either heat detector, pull station, all the modules, all the notification appliance. It is mandatory that those equipments are listed for use with the panel also. So it is like compatibility is very important, no? Just to make sure that the system will work. That's why it's here in 10.3.3 under N72. It's mandatory to have a listing also for all the devices that you should be listed also for use with the fire alarm. It means the compatibility should be there. Okay? 10.3.5 fundamentals, again, applicable for all equipment. It shall be designed so that it's capable of performing its intended function under the following condition. So there are conditions, guys, where these equipments are allowed or I mean should take care. Like at 85 to 110% of the nameplate of primary and secondary. So it should be capable of performing its intended function, no? Even at 85% of the 85% of the voltage, if there's a fluctuation, as long as it didn't fall below 85% or more than 130%, it should perform its intended function. Or if the ambient temperature is within 0 to 49 degrees, it should not affect the operation. That's why, guys, when we are proposing devices, fire alarm devices in any application, you have to take care of these parameters. There should be a good supply of voltage from the facilities. No? If it's fluctuating below 85%, then you might have facing problem with trouble, because if it falls below 85%, you will have a trouble in a fire alarm. Or if the temperatures within the area that you install the fire alarm is less than 0 degrees or more than 49, what will happen is there will be impact in the operation of your equipment. Or if the relative humidity is more than 85%, then there will be issue later on with the operation of your device. Either it will be defective later on, something like that. So make sure of these fundamentals, guys, that we comply this. The other one is 10.43 fundamentals. It's applicable again for all equipment. Equipment shall be installed in location where conditions do not exceed the voltage temperature. It's almost the same with the previous one. And it's specified, of course, in manufacturer's published instruction. So other than this, guys, you have to check the datasheet, catalogs, installation manual of the fire alarm devices. What are the other factors that you have to consider? Limitation within manufacturer's limit. Okay? Then 10.4.4 fundamentals, it's applicable for control unit or when we have a NAX extender and supervision stations transmitting equipment. So if these areas, buildings are not continuously occupied, automatic smoke detector shall be provided. So guys, where your control panel is located, if it's not continuously occupied, or your NAC extender, your transponder for extending the notification appliance, and your equipment for transmitting signals to the remotely, let's say for in remotely from the building, if they are not continuously occupied or located within the room which is not continuously occupied, there should be automatic smoke detector installed in that room. Okay? So the next one is 10.4.5.2. It's applicable for initiating devices. Initiating devices shall comply with the requirements of Chapter 17 and 23, which we will discuss later on. Okay? And 10.5.1.2 fundamentals, for this is applicable for system designer. State or local licensure regulations shall be followed to determine qualified personnel. So guys, if you are a fire protection designer or a fire alarm system designer, you have to make sure that you have license within the state to do the design for fire alarm. Okay? So, and the next one, it's about system designer again. What are the documentation or qualification which is required a system designer to have? He should have registration, licensing, certification by the state. So a license or a certification by the state, certification of organization acceptable by AHJ. Okay. So sometimes if you have some NFPA certification, if it's acceptable by AHJ, they will see this. Or if you have manufacturer's certification, no, that you are familiar with the system that you are designing, what brand you or manufacturer did you consider in your design. If you have that certification from that particular manufacturer, it can be enough as a documentation also. It's part of your documentation as a designer. Okay. The other one is 10 point in item 10. The system designer shall be identified on the so when the designers are doing design in a plan, in the drawings, his name should be clearly identified in the design documents. Okay. So the next item 11 for power supplies. All power supplies shall be installed in accordance with applicable requirement of 70. So whenever we're installing power supply, guys, we have to consider also the requirements from 70. So if you will check NFPA 70 later on, we will discuss this also. But this is just because when you have a power supply, of course, it will be connected to a particular bunch for supply of power. There is a requirement there from NFPA 70 that there should be a dedicated branch exclusive for fire alarm. So that is the one of the requirements that you have to consider in NFPA 70. So that's why it's referring to NFPA 70. Item 12 for power supplies again, unless configured in compliance with 10.6.4, just check that notes also, at least two independent and reliable power supplies shall be provided. One primary and one secondary. This is why, guys, in every fire alarm detection and alarm system or fire alarm control panel, which we discussed previously, which is the major component of fire detection and alarm system, you will find always two kind of supply. One is primary and secondary. What is primary? Primary is the power coming from the utility or the branch circuit coming from the electrical. And the other one is secondary, which is the backup battery. In case the primary power utility fails, this secondary battery backup will provide the source automatically within 10 seconds, not more than 10 seconds. We will discuss it later on. And another requirement for power supply is each power supply shall be adequate capacity for the application. What do you mean by that? When you have a power supply, either external power supply or power supply within the power alarm control panel, it shall be capable of handling the maximum load, no? Either maximum load or some safety factors to consider to supply the required power of a fire detection and alarm system. Another one is in item 14 for power supply again, monitoring the integrity of power supply in accordance with 10.6.9. So there should be a means for monitoring the source of power. In case of power fails, let's say the primary power fails, it should be supervised. The panel should give some trouble signals or indication at the panel that the source is primary power source is there's a failure in primary power source. Okay. The other one is other item is item 15. This is for secondary power supply. Okay. For secondary power supply, this is what I'm saying before, that the secondary power supply shall automatically provide power to the protected premises system within 10 seconds. So that is the time delay required. So if the primary power fails, let's say from the utility, it should give the required power within 10 seconds maximum. So the backup battery shall give the power within 10 seconds. For item 16, secondary power supplies for fire alarm use shall be capable of supplying power to the system under standby mode for a minimum of 24 hours, and at the end of the period shall be capable of operating alarm notification for evacuation for 5 minutes. What do we mean by that? So what do we mean by that is when the primary power fails from the utility, this backup battery shall be capable of operating the whole system within 24 hours. It should supply the power, maintain the power within 24 hours, and after that 24 hours, if power is still not still not normal, available, still not available, then the battery backup power also shall be capable of providing a 5-minute minimum of 5 minutes alarm notification if in case of fire. Okay? So the other for item 17, it's for secondary power supply again. Battery calculation shall include a minimum of 20% safety factor. So let's say you made a battery calculation based on the devices that we have, initiating a notification and some other auxiliary power. For those designers who's doing the battery calculation, you know this already. So you have to add 20% safety factor aside from the calculated capacity. So this shall be taken in consideration, no? This safety factor. Again, for item 18, secondary power supply for emergency buoys. So there's a slight difference between requirements of secondary backup power for emergency buoys to fire alarm. Before, what we need only is 24 hours and 5 minutes in here. 24 hours standby and 5 minutes alarm. But if for buoys evacuation application, shall be minimum 24 hours standby and 15 minutes alarm. So that is the difference. But in this tutorial, we're discussing about fire alarm, so we don't need this item for this time. Now, the next item is secondary power supply. Next item 19, which is for secondary power supply again, but for buoys and alarm, fire alarm. So, for buoys and fire alarm, for secondary power supply, the applicable or accepted means of secondary power supply is either storage battery or an engine-driven generator. For item 20, for storage batteries, guys, batteries should be marked with month and year of manufacturer using the month year format. So whenever you check the battery, guys, this is why in fire alarm it's important that there should be a tag, or you should see this when this battery are manufactured. It's important because if you buy this battery and this manufactured 5 years ago, then the performance of this battery is different if you will buy it within the limit. So it will affect the performance of fire alarm. So just be careful of this. That's why in batteries you have to take care of the year of manufacture, and it should be clear and marked within the batteries. Okay, for battery charging, guys, for item 21, battery charging equipment shall be provided to recharge batteries within 48 hours, and fully charged batteries have been subject to single discharge cycle as specified in 10.6.7.2. Okay, so guys, once this, let's say the battery is discharged, it already performed the 24 hours and 5 minutes alarm, like what discussed earlier. When the power is normalized again, supplied utility, the battery shall be capable of recharging or fully charged within 48 hours. That is the requirement. Otherwise, the battery charging is will not meet these requirements from NFPA. So should recharge the battery within 48 hours. Should be capable. Okay? So battery charging for item 22, means shall be provided to detect the failure of battery charger. So guys, it's mandatory for battery charging. If it fails, should give indication of the power alarm control panel that there's a problem with with your charging. Okay? So diesel engine driven generator for item 23 shall comply with NFPA 110. No, guys, if your secondary backup power is coming from the diesel engine driven generator, you have to consider the requirements from NFPA 110 if it's used for emergency, for backup of emergency loads like fire alarm. If it's used as secondary backup power, and let's say the fire alarm control panel doesn't have a backup battery, if it's provided, the backup power is provided from the diesel only, then make sure that your diesel is a Type 10 Class 24 Level 1 system as per NFPA 110. This Type 10 here, guys, is simply means that the power shall be provided automatically by generator within 10 seconds. If it exceeded 10 seconds, kalas, then it's not meeting the requirements of NFPA 72. Because sometimes when you have an ATS, transferring from utility to the generator, plus generator, the running time for generator, it will exceed 10 seconds. So be careful of this. So when we say if your fire alarm is supplied, the secondary backup power is coming from diesel engine driven generator, then make sure that it's powered from type 10 diesel engine driven generator. Otherwise, just provide battery backup power. Then item 24 shall be in accordance with NFPA 70, and we will discuss this later on. This NFPA 70 also for wirings. Okay. In fire alarm also, in item 25, for class A, we will not be discussing other type of wirings for fire alarm. There's a lot of fire alarm wirings. One is class A or class B or class X. There are many, but here we will just discuss what is usually considered by a designer. So in our part, in what is most of the time designers are considering class A and class B. So in class A, what is the requirement? A pathway shall be designated as class A when it performs as follows. So these are the condition. We can say only that your wirings for fire alarm is class A if it includes a redundant path. So when we say redundant path, it's going back to the panel. That's why it's called class A. When something happens in between or cut or open circuit, still you have power from the other side. That's why it's redundant. Operational capability continues even if there's single open fault. Still, the system will work and it will provide annunciation of trouble signal. Conditions that affect the intended operation of path are annunciated okay, trouble. That's what I said. And even for single fault, it should still operate. That is another condition. And single ground fault shall also provide trouble signal annunciation. So these are the condition if your wireless is class A. If it's class X, this is another level of wiring. In class X, the only difference between A is even if there's a combination of open fault or ground fault, two in the wirings, in one wirings, still the system will work and there will be annunciation of trouble signal. That is the added condition in class X only. Okay? Class B, I will not discuss it, but because this is just a basic circuit, so in class B, the disadvantages is if there's a open wire in between the devices, all the devices after the last devices which is connected from the fire alarm will not communicate to the panel anymore. It will be lost. Unlike in class A or class X, if you have open circuit in between or anywhere in the circuit, you will still have power from the other side. So there will be no loss in communication, but there will be only initiation of trouble. Okay? So, okay, for class A and class X pathway separation, just take note of this shall be installed so that the primary and redundant are outgoing and return conductors exiting and returning from the control unit respectively are routed separately. There's a note 2 here. So what does this means, guys? It means when all this conductor going out from the panel and returning to the panel, it should not be in the same raceway or conduit, no? So it should be separated, guys. This is mandatory, so you have to take care of the design or in the installation. It shall be done separately. Shall be installed, so it's mandatory, guys. Don't mix these two, outgoing from the fire alarm panel and returning to the panel in one conduit. They shall be installed separately. Okay, all pathways shall comply with NFPA 70, again, in item 28.